Okay, I can edit out the four part of the
All right.
part beforehand if until people get here, but that way we know we're getting the recording.
Lovely to see you,
Yeah.
Lloyd. But
Yeah, hi
Edward,
Lloyd.
what was that remedy you had for pain with cayenne pepper? What do you do?
No, cayenne pepper is a powerful diuretic. It cleans up the arteries so that if there is any clogging within the arteries, then the blood will move through, I mean, normally. When it goes to the heart, it repairs the heart almost instantly. Even a stroke patient can recover like within a couple of less than 2 minutes if
Hmm.
you administer the cayenne pepper. It like repairs the heart muscles pump normally. So once the heart is pumping normally, the arteries are open, they have no blockage. Then even in terms of blood pressure, it is likely to normalize, particularly if the blood pressure is due to blockage of these arteries. And blockage is from it can come from these fats we use for cooking, for margarine that we put on the bread. It goes in between the endothelial lining of the arteries and then bulge, make the artery bulge and reducing the size, the diameter of the arteries. So, but cayenne pepper will go in and then you clean up the blood very, very fast. It thins it up very, very fast. Within
Wow.
a minute, a drop of blood will move around the body, and then in the head, there is a substance called P that interprets signals, stress signals, physical stress signals that you have pain. So once it is depleted, then you don't feel any pain anymore. It's like it works like Panadol, like paracetamol, like all aspirin and so on. But for it, it's much much faster and it has no like negative impact on the liver because Panadol will damage the liver eventually.
You know, Edward, you should just today actually the internet is exploding with information about this the deep research from OpenAI and one of the examples that they gave was a worker at OpenAI who had access to this earlier, and his wife was diagnosed with cancer and
Mm-hmm.
apparently extreme because she had to go through 3 rounds of chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
But he was able to go in and use this new deep research tool that is being released today to people who are
Mm-hmm.
on the more expensive model. And will be coming to everybody probably by the end of this month or shortly thereafter. But he was able to go, and it brought up things that the doctor he's has so many doctors because he can afford it. He's very, very highly paid individual. But that none of the doctors had thought of this. The research brought stuff because it searched basically all of humanity related to even remotely related things on this. And what would be fantastic is to take what you are describing here and put this in, and it could maybe bring up all the research anybody's done on these kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
natural remedies, and give you fantastic reports, presentations, slides, PowerPoints, the whole thing to be able to better explain to people of why certain remedies would be very valuable. So it gives you, it's almost like
yeah,
doing a doctorate degree in that particular category of remedy.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
thank
just
you,
today.
Bill.
This
Yeah.
will have huge
We-
applications in the medical and alternative medicine as well to
Yeah,
verify the claims as well
yeah.
of many of these.
I'm going to post some and send out to all the people I normally send to some of the links to explaining this because, like I say, this is literally hot off the press. It all happens within the last 24 hours that any of us have found out anything about these. And for Lysinka, the whole thing for the monetary theory and so forth, for the getting all the evidence and the justifications explained, or to go for Africa, for example, all the remote rural villages, the attempts on the financing for development. What I started off was going in and asking the new O3, questions about the development. What are the strategies that could be working for development? What's failed and where is it going here? And I'm already getting very strange, very not expected solutions coming back, but it is totally taking on the issue of saying, how do you get a balance between urban and rural and the problems of the cycle of poverty and education that poor parents can't provide the education for their children who become poor parents and how that so it addressed both the urban poverty inequality and it addressed the geographic inequalities. And it's fascinating to look to see how it's doing that. That, you know, if you have the misfortune that you're in a rural area that has very, very bad soil, very bad water conditions, you don't have transportation opportunities. Okay, how do you bring a balance? How do you make this work? And it will address those kinds of things. And I don't even have access to the deep research. I'm only using the basic right now. But we're going to see here, literally within a couple of months, proposals for how do we close the inequality gaps between developing and developed countries. It'll tackle those huge
Yeah.
types of problems that until now we sort of say, no, we got to nibble on the corners and do a little bit from where we're at right now. It's looking at all the fundamentals of why situations are the way they are and looking at all that's been done and what's worked and what didn't work and explaining the whys. It, it
And
is it's
providing
opening a
suggestions,
new
I'm
door.
guessing, as well, that we may not have heard, like thought of before, right?
That's right. I was telling Lasinka, it came out and said, hey, it's misguided to try to go and help rural communities. The only option that makes any sense is to relocate everybody away from remote rural locations because it's would be unfair to the general populations to subsidize providing the infrastructure and the services and whatnot into those kinds of communities, that it makes much more sense to relocate people to geographies that are more conducive to
Like
supporting
clustering,
human
basically.
clustering, but not only clustering, it's a question of where. Do you cluster them where there's water, where there's soil, where there's transportation, all of those kinds of factors to say, hey, let's go where the
Well, it's
climate and the
strategic
geography makes
clustering, you
sense.
could say.
Pardon?
Perhaps that would be we could call it strategic clustering.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But I mean the thing about it is that it came out and said that, stop thinking about how you're going to subsidize and how you're going to come in from the outside and change these villages
Yeah.
to be a good place to live when the very nature of the places are not conducive for humans to thrive there.
Empower them to understand that if they are able to come together
Mhm.
in these villages, these
Yeah.
clusters,
Yeah.
themselves,
Mhm.
empower them with the knowledge and the skills and the ability to become self-sufficient, not
Yeah,
go
but
to
again,
help them,
it's
right?
hard to become self-sufficient if you're living in a mountainous terrain where it's all bare rock and there's no water,
Yeah,
right?
it's difficult, not impossible, but difficult.
Yeah,
And
exactly,
I'm
exactly.
looking at the time.
Yes,
We're already a quarter
I
of an
think
hour.
here,
Where is a Joan? I wonder if she's mistaken the time somehow.
let me send her a message
Give her
separately
a call or
here.
something. I have been trying to call her, but I didn't get through.
Now, one thing I'm hoping that we'll get, you are recording this, Bill,
Yes.
um, is to actually get a copy. I don't know if do you upload it to YouTube or anything at the end?
Yes, yes. I
Yeah.
have a channel. I created a channel for us, and I've been
Okay.
uploading. I think I'm one video behind, and plus
Okay.
the comments
Because
cluster.
I now I've been using AI tools, all these ones that you've been introducing us
Yeah.
to for the past months. I've
Hmm.
been using them every day. I use them constantly, all the time, and I'm producing reports. I'm producing all this great summaries of the discussions. I'm now putting videos into AI and getting transcripts, getting summaries, get all of this stuff. So I don't need to do my typing anymore. right?
Oh
Because
boy.
remember, I used to type.
Yes, but you
It
know what?
still helps me remember
Yeah.
things, but now at least I'm freed up to become
I'll
part of
tell
the
you, I sent
conversation.
Lasinka, I don't know if you saw that thing I sent you yesterday
You did
about the.
send, yes, I didn't actually look at it. I did see you sent me
Okay,
something.
here's just one thought on this. If you go into advanced voice and ChatGPT and you just talk, you have a conversation about whatever the topic is that interests you, and you just talk and talk and talk and back and forth, bantering around, and then you end it. And now you're back in normal ChatGPT and you just say open canvas. And what it will do is it will take maybe that half hour or an hour or 2 hours of conversation, and it will synthesize and summarize that whole thing and put it into a document
Hmm.
and give you then the ability to go and shorten it, lengthen it, change the reader level. You can go to middle school, or you can go to PhD level, or you can go in and edit specific points. You can ask it to make outlines. You can ask it to turn it into a PowerPoint with slides and speakers notes for every slide. Uh,
Yeah. Well,
Craig,
and the other thing I have been doing as well is as we have meetings, daily meetings almost now, Zoom calls like this, especially with I mentioned to you before this BIPOCA alliance with
mhm,
the Friends of the African Union. So we're
right,
having our weekly calls on Friday, but in between we have actually another event tomorrow as well, discussion. But uh, what I do is I take those summaries of the discussions we just had that week. I create the summary documents and then I upload them
hi,
into
John.
Notebook LM. So now
I
I have a
thought,
history
sorry,
of every discussion we've had in Notebook LM where I can now query the entire history of our conversation.
Yes,
And
yes,
so that's why I said before, is there enough room in Notebook LM for all of these documents I'm uploading every day? Because they're also sharing documents with us that I'm
yes,
also uploading
yeah.
into
But
Notebook LM.
you now you can get the plus version and go to 300 sources.
Okay, all right. Well, at some point, I'm nowhere near yet, but I know I will be, and it won't take long. But it's a great tool.
Okay, Lasinka, we can't hear you. Lasinka, I saw your mouth moving, but we can't hear you.
I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Okay, Joan, glad that you're here. We were just sort of killing time a little bit, and hopefully I'm going to see Amos and Yvonne, where they're at. But I sent out the invitation here. I know every week I promise myself I'm not going to be doing this at 1 o'clock in the morning.
yeah.
But it 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 just it just seems that it just seems to be happening.
Yeah, well, so much to do in so little time.
Yeah, yeah. So, but at any rate, here, as I say, I'm just going to reach out to Yvonne and Amos and remind them to please come on the call.
Yeah, I just tried to call Amos because he made a mistake in the time. He thinks it starts at 6 o'clock my time.
Ah,
And he and
Yeah,
I
I
are,
thought it started later as well.
yeah,
I only saw it this morning as well,
bit
the invitation. So, and
telling
it
you
was
what time
2 minutes after.
um Amos and I are in the same time zone.
yeah.
Hi, Lloyd, how are you?
Busy, busy. Wow. We are on a roll with the Friends of the African Union, which is obviously based in the U.S., Ohio. Um, so they are now putting together proposals for the Trump administration. Very fun. Um, and they believe they can produce something really incredible, actually, out of these proposals that they've uh, previously put um, during the Summit of Future. They had been putting in their own proposals, um, the UN Human Rights Council, um, and the programs that they're proposing for basically reparations, but it is actually a financing plan that they actually have backing for, which is why I'm hoping that people like Bill will eventually meet, especially Herschel Daniels Jr., because they have the backing of some major international banks for their proposals to finance development across Africa, and in all indigenous communities, um, and even the Federal Reserve is supportive of their initiatives. So I'm seeing Lisa Anise coming on the call, and she's aware of many of these conversations we've been having with Herschel and the Friends of the African Union and all of their allies, which includes the World Conference of Mayors and a number of other organizations. So this idea we've had for quite a while of globalizing the global goals is something that the Friends of the African Union has taken up the mantle for, and would like to implement and finance. So it is something that is actually moving ahead, and we're on a actually a very tight timeline this year to take action, especially with respect to artificial intelligence and the use of AI for education in particular, which is why I want Bill to talk to Herschel, because this is about the literacy program that he has dreamt of implementing with Rotary globally to empower all these, especially people around the world,
Is he
to
the one
learn.
that's in New York?
He's in Ohio.
Oh, in
So
Ohio.
he's in Cincinnati.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay,
So
guys, it's now 25 after,
And you
and
have the vision and the mission and the and
yes,
the so
so
looking forward
So
to that.
how are we discussing this if the people on the committee is not here?
well, I just sent messages to both Amos and Yvonne, and I tried calling Yvonne, but she didn't pick up. So I'm not quite sure on that. But we're recording it, so whoever's not here. The problem is that Joan, I
It's
was
not good
looking.
enough. The thing is that this is what's happening all the time. Different people are on. I can't handle that.
Yeah, yeah. I think, well, I'll tell you what then. Let me start here with my 10 minutes, and then I'm going to stay through everything, but I just want to do 10 minutes because that's a 10 minutes that's not so important for people to hear. Lisa, you have
I just wanted to bring home what Lloyd said. I spoke with Herschel this morning, and yes, they got a 3-point plan, and it's got full support of a number of different governments that are going to be putting their, well, 2 bits in, as it were, in order to assist. We've heard a lot of reports, from Lloyd included, of different nations having a great deal of interest in seeing that these conflict areas are stabilized and the people allowed to have a word in their nation's future. So moving
yeah,
forward from there, we'll hear
yeah.
more about it tomorrow. There's going to be a general meeting.
What time is
So
that meeting tomorrow?
I haven't
2
received
p.m.
that
It's
timing
2
yet.
p.m.
2
I
p.m.
have a
Oh,
Eastern.
2
Facebook
p.m.
page. I'll be sharing that later.
Okay, so it's 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes.
Okay, I might be able to attend that then. Okay, but here to our topic here. What the
Oh,
goal?
he was under the impression that it was at 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
So I talked to him about three-quarters of an hour ago and said it's not,
yeah,
and gave him the time. So I've tried to call him again, but I couldn't get through.
yeah.
So
I just asked if they could come on the call now. Okay, so this, I'm hoping that we'll get to that. But we have to think today, we Jones brought up over and over and over, we talk, but we have to go at some point and say, okay, here's what we're going to do, and then start doing it. So a big
But we
part.
can't do that if we don't have a formal committee.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, but we have to go and put the stake in the ground of saying this is it. Hey, all you people who agree to the stake we're putting in the ground, rally around that stake and let's do it. Okay.
And provide it to all the members to say, okay, this is what the committee came up with. What are your thoughts?
Right. Right.
But you still need the committee to make that decision.
Yes, yes. But the thing about it is if we, if we are always waiting here for everybody to be there every time, and as Joan, as you pointed out, that different people, they're here one meeting, they miss the next meeting and so forth. We can't let the process be held hostage to that. We've got to take for those people who are present, bring out the best ideas we can, put them out there, and go asynchronously maybe with the rest by putting it into writing or whatever, so that we can those people who are not present can voice their thoughts between the formal meetings. That would be my suggestion, because otherwise we're just time keeps passing.
Yes, I quite agree.
Well, you guys might agree, but when you're doing a pilot project, you have to have a dedicated team that has a vision, a plan, and an implementation strategy and a timeline.
But I think, Joan, the
Mhm.
problem has been that we have not put and said, this is the plan. And so we're still sort
Well,
of talking.
today, according to what Lysinka wrote, we're supposed to come up with the whole plan today, which is
No,
impossible.
it's impossible. Yes, I agree with that. But the thing what I wrote in the invitation here is that we wanted to nail down and say this is the purpose of the
Okay,
pilot.
let's do that.
Okay, well then let me just go through the 4 points.
Yep,
The purpose of the pilot, the vision of where we see this thing going. Why are we doing this? Where is it going?
yep,
And then the description of the actual pilot that we're looking to make.
yep,
And I mentioned to that we've got to clarify some of the major features, the what, and we have to clarify the why. And I put the examples in a proprietary marketplace or a public marketplace, a marketplace primarily to earn money or to only capture demand, a special currency or using national currencies, a UBI or no UBI, limited to non-physical services or not, includes sociocratic decision making or not, focused on poverty reduction and all needs, or primarily on personal development and spiritual needs. A closed system of products, services, currency that cannot be exchanged with economies that are outside of the alternate economy that we're talking about, whether the accumulation of currency or not. In other words, does the currency disappear at the end of the year or does it continue? In other words, to enable accumulation. Is it a single global solution or multiple local solutions? Is debt allowed or is it not allowed? So it's these kinds of things that when we get into the description of what we're trying to do, we're ambiguous if we don't come up and say, it's not a question here of saying it's got to be this one or it's got to be that one, but we have to say which one it is. That
okay.
that I think is the key point.
I think those are excellent questions. So what we need to do is put it in a pilot project plan.
Yes.
And then part of what you're saying is then we have to maybe make some sort of document and send it out to the full group so that
Mhm.
they have feedback because that's what we want is
Right.
support of the group.
And I'm hearing from
Um,
Lloyd that the tools that Lloyd's using. Lloyd, if you're willing, here, I'll try to get the recording and everything to you as quickly as possible, and then maybe you can help us get that all into those meaningful structured documents here, so that we can canvass everybody to collect the ideas. And Lisinka, well, one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to go out there and say, okay, here's something, and we turn a two-pager into a 10-pager because there's all kinds of comments that are rehashing the things that we already had discussed.
The other thing too that's of concern to me, I just want to I keep asking every time we're doing the pilot project, then we have the SIFA plan, and then which committee are we on right now?
I think the thing here
Because they
that's
seem to
part,
get confused all the time.
yeah, I think that's part of what that's the reason why I phrased it in the invite, that in the purpose of the pilot project, does it have any relationship to the SIFA plan or not? There's nothing that says it has to.
Okay, so
And
we're starting from scratch, is what
Yes,
I'm asking.
correct. Joan, I
Okay,
just
good, good. I like that.
you put out the idea that we wanted to have a pilot project. Okay. What that was up to you and Bill. But I have no idea what you want to do, and I'm here just to be as supportive as I can in any way.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
up to the two of you to put it out, you put it out to the others, and the
The,
others coming here also to find out what we are going to do together that everybody wants to
Yeah,
do.
okay,
and
so
just
when I put it out there, and yes, I did put it out there, and yes, I do 100% agree that if you don't have something when you're rolling something out of something that you've done, nobody's going to listen to you. It's just an idea. That's my experience. Um, Others may say there is a different experience. I did it both privately and not for profit, and that was always the response, like, "Oh my God, you've done it." So that's the first thing. What I didn't realize was that all the components of the pilot project has to be included. Like we don't have a trading currency, we don't have the support of any organizations. Like, oh my gosh. So we have to take a step back and establish what it is that we're trying to do and what. So here is what I'm going to suggest. And we have to write this out, what you just said, Bill, those questions out if you can send them to me so I can
they're
put
all in
them
the
in the
invite.
document.
I put them right in the middle of the
Okay.
invite text.
So what is the purpose? So this meeting is about the pilot project?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. I'm going to put that because I don't want to discuss the SIFA plan
And
because
if I
I'm
could
not an
just point
expert.
out one thing here that I had said, Joan, you've got very specific ideas that you came to the group because you have a vision that you are hoping to
Yeah.
this will support and achieve.
Yes.
And I think we can say the same for Amos and the same for
Yep.
Yvonne. And this is why the three of you we really want to focus because I'm more in the theory clouds
Yeah.
on big picture things. So we're really hoping, Joan, that you and hopefully Yvonne and Amos will come in at some point here, that we can. It doesn't really make so much a difference, I think, here what we're talking about, as long as we have to come up with a plan.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
so,
good.
Joan, please,
Great.
I'm going to take what I was looking to talk about for 10 minutes, and I'm going to not do that today because I'll do that in writing maybe afterwards because I think a lot of what I bring up is
Yeah,
distracting
and
me.
we'll talk about strategy. And I write up a plan for when we talk about strategy and things like that, because we have to get to the meat of what we want to do.
Right.
And I've never done something like this before where I wasn't working from an actual vision document or a policy document. It's mostly what we work with. We take the policies and say, okay, so those decisions are already made, and you come up with a plan on how to do it. So this is new ground to me. So I'm learning as I'm going, and I'm okay with that. Um, so let's think of very succinctly, remind me again so I write it down exactly why the common cluster was formed. You've said it to me before.
Was to bring the best practices from the grassroots to UN member states.
Okay. So this is why so that's going to be, we always have to remember that we represent the common cluster, right? Best practices from the grassroots.
UN member states. But what I really, what we've been doing over the years is to be there. And when people have interesting projects that they want to get up, to create something together like we're doing now, so that people's projects and ideas can be put together, and then we can come up with something that's going to be valuable in UN terms. So for
Okay. So if I'm understanding it, it's really more rather than co-creation because you're looking at the best practices because they're already created if it's a best practice. It's more co-promotion.
whatever's coming up. This is a new project that's coming in. And so I'll be there, and this is it goes where it goes.
Okay. This you mean this pilot project it's a common cluster total is what you're saying.
Well, we can do that. So you can say, okay, we're going to have a different organizations support it. And
Well, that would happen anyway, right? So, okay. Um, so I'm glad I have that part of it because, okay, we have to be sensitive to that. All right, let's go to what is the challenge? What is the problem we're trying to solve? That's the question I want answered.
are we going to have a brainstorming session, or do you want us to run?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I can just give it a world that works for all and nature.
That's not a problem.
I think maybe Lysinka, we're looking more for things like uh, um, reduce gross inequalities. For example, reduce the damage to our environment or the destruction of the environment that's ongoing.
Yeah, it has
Things
to be
like these.
specific.
Yeah.
Okay. I take a few steps back and I'm just listening to what everybody says.
Okay. So guys, you've been part of the Common Cluster. As am I. We have our own organization, and the Common Cluster. We're coming together to work almost like an umbrella organization for support and all of that. So, and we know that the SIFA plan has been a lot of work has been done on it, so we can't disregard it. It's obviously there's a need for it. However, when we're designing what it is that we're going forward, what is the problem we're trying to solve?
I think
May I
here
put it
we
another
can
way
take.
then? What is the challenge that we hope to
Yeah.
address? How's that?
I think we can look at it here. The UN has SDGs. The G stands for goals. Okay, these are what the goals are. And Koistra, when he came up with this World Marshall Plan idea, he started off with pointing out the problems. And the problems he pointed out is that the extreme inequalities in the world, with the resulting poverty and hunger and so forth. And he pointed out the destruction of our environment as being a major thing. And he pointed out something that Lysinka is often referred to, that we have the material needs, but there's also the spiritual needs. In other words, that a lot of people's motivations are, how do I get to be superior to everybody else? How do I get to be more powerful than everybody else? That to try to influence that thinking to get more collaborative versus competitive thinking in the world. So those, I think, were the main goals. And Lysinka, you're the one that knows the best to correct if I'm wrong. But it seems to me the basic goals were to reduce inequalities, which would impact hunger, poverty, gender inequalities, and everything else, and the reduce or eliminate the destruction of our environment. Those were the it seems to me the primary goals. The SIFA plan then just gets into what his suggestion was, how we can accomplish that. But if we sit, when we go and say, okay, why are we doing this? Okay, what do we hope to accomplish? I think here, if we phrase it in terms of
Yeah.
reducing the inequalities and the resulting negatives for the world, and reduce the destruction of the planet and environment, it would seem to me that those are the two biggest things. And when we get into the personal development, are we getting into having everybody become kinder and gentler, members of our society? Those are things that manifest themselves in that inequality or in the exploitation and destruction of the planet or our fellow humans.
Can we also have everybody else? I mean, Edward has been in our meetings several
Mhm.
times now. Dossie has been with us forever. Augustine has been here a number of times. And of course, Lisa, you've been with us before. And Lloyd, you're a very loyal. So I'd like to have everybody participate.
So
Yes.
would I. So I'm
Yes.
going to tell everyone that down at the bottom, there's something called React. You can click on it and raise your hands. When the question's asked, it's for everyone to answer. So I don't want to be calling names. If I'll call names, but what are your thoughts? Everybody's been on these calls, and I think that's one of the issues we're having is that we don't have. Okay, Edward, please go ahead. You're on mute.
Oh,
We can hardly hear you.
yes, Edward, maybe you have to hold the microphone a little closer. We can't we can't
Can't hear
understand
you.
you.
Very clear before, and now
You're breaking up.
And everyone. Yes, I've unmuted. I think
That's a
you
little
can hear
bit better.
me. Is it correct?
Not much.
Squelch.
I would suggest Edward should turn off his camera, and that might
Yes.
clear up bandwidth.
Well, he's the fact that he's frozen right now. I think here his
Yeah.
connection
Yeah, we
got.
lost him.
Yeah, he may have
Okay.
stepped out of range.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So the question is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Dose? If people don't want to talk, you can write.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. I want to the problem we want to solve is first poverty.
Poverty?
Poverty is fundamental. Inequality reduction. Inequality between rich and poorest. You see,
Okay.
so entrepreneurship, youth entrepreneurship promotion.
And
This is
yeah.
very, very fundamental. Okay.
All right. So poverty and inequality reduction. Great. Lisa,
Conflict for corporate purposes.
which one?
Conflict for corporate purposes.
what was the first word, Lisa? I didn't hear you.
Conflict.
Conflict.
Lisa, that's you're getting into the competition for or personal over the collective.
No, what I'm getting into is how historically, over and over again, we see conflict erupting in areas where poverty is a norm because of the resources that they have in the soil.
Mhm.
So you say conflict
root
for
cause.
corporate purposes.
Yes.
Okay.
Edward,
Okay, Edward, let's try again.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope now I can be heard
Yes,
here
we can hear
clearly.
you. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I was looking at the nations in the developing world who are largely overburdened by debts from International Monetary Fund and other countries who give debts, and countries remain in a vicious cycle of servicing debts, hardly left with any resources to support development for both infrastructure as well as support their citizens if it comes to the universal basic income. So what we could do is to advocate for a debt relief, a debt reduction or relief by these countries and the IMF so that the developing countries can be able to probably prioritize their resources for development. Thanks.
Wow.
That's
Um,
advocacy versus pilot projects.
okay, that's why I'm trying to get at the heart of this because I say everybody has their thing. Okay, so Bill, what do you think the purpose of the
Well, we haven't heard from Augustine yet.
oh,
And
I'm sorry, Augustine, you're on mute. Augustine, can you hear us?
Okay.
She's on mute.
Yeah, and she might be not be in a place where
Right.
she can talk.
Maybe stepped away for a second.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate what I said before. I think
Yeah.
here the two major problems or goals or purpose, reduce inequalities, and via that reducing poverty and hunger and all the other things that are manifested from inequalities, and reduce the destruction of our environment.
Yeah.
I see those as being the two ultimate goals, if you would.
Hmm.
So I guess I'm the last person that hasn't spoken on
Yes,
this.
yes, Lloyd.
Um, so Joan asked for the problem question.
Yeah.
Uh, I see the problem. Bill has mentioned many times. So what we're trying to do, of course, according to what the Commons Cluster is all about,
Yeah.
is to bring answers from the grassroots to the UN, to the highest level of their policy making and understanding of what to do to implement the solutions. The
Yeah.
solutions they're trying to achieve are, of course, as Bill mentioned, the Sustainable Development Goals. So the problem statement, basically, I mean, I don't know if I can say it perfectly, but it revolves around how do we accelerate the implementation and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Like how that's the problem statement is we are going backwards, as has been outlined.
Yeah.
How can we actually reverse course and move forward in a accelerated manner on all of those goals, with the primary um, focus being basically SDG 10, reduced inequalities, which is basically what Bill just said. Like, how can we reduce inequalities and address the environmental and security issues around housing, food, water, energy, all of these basic things in life. So thinking about the base of the pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like how can we address those things as a priority, and but also address all the rest of the goals, and how can we accelerate that progress, reverse course, because if we're going backwards now, at least get us back on track and maybe move us toward uh, a better world. And this is what I think governments would want to see as an output of our pilot project, whatever that ends up being.
Yeah.
They will
Mhm.
want to know, oh, this is what they're suggesting we do.
Exactly. We're bringing a solution to
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
Right now, all we're doing is saying, oh, we want to save the world. Well, everybody else is doing that. But how are you doing it? How can I help you promote it? How can I put my resources to it? This is what we should be asking, taking them to the next step.
Joan, I hadn't
Mhm.
given my input yet. So
Sorry.
we have now two main thrusts, and both of them are connected. Is the inequality of the world, the gap between rich and poor, and with that, the terrible problems that come with being poor, as well as the problems that come with being rich, which is the pollution of the environment. And so, Lloyd, you really brought it together
Yeah.
into Sustainable Development Goals. I want to make it the same, but a little broader, but exactly the same, a different formulation, which is the three dimensions of the SDGs. And the three dimensions are that we have to have a good economy, a good society, and a healthy environment. Those are the three dimensions of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Could you repeat those, please, Lucinka?
Yes, they are society, economy, and environment are the three dimensions of sustainability.
You always see those circles, Bill.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
always
The
has the
Venn
three.
diagrams, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. What Madam Lisenka said is the base of the SDGs. The SDGs are reposed on three dimensions: social, economic, and environmental development. So our project will work if we do the good reform with multilateral systems at local level, sub-national level, national level, sub-regional level for Africa, and the regional level. If everything is placed, is make in this line, you see that in every corner, in every village, in every municipality, will have this structure, multilateral institution. So everything will be based on data collection, data revolution in social aspect, data revolution in economic aspect, data revolution in environmental level. So if everything is planned well, this project SIFA plan will work easily. Thank you.
If I
Great.
could add something to what I said earlier, and yesterday I participated in a conference on the SDGs, and the discussion was that apparently there's a movement at the UN that within I think 2 years they're basically saying, hey, we know now we cannot achieve the SDGs by 2030,
Right.
so they want to come up with a basically an extension, sort of repeating what happened in 2015 when we realized we weren't going to achieve the Millennium Development Goals, and then we came up with the Sustainable Development Goals. So there's this idea, okay, let's push this out. But at the same time, there was a recognition that in 2015, when the SDGs were established, there was this vision about how the world works. So that when we talk about development, it's even incorporated when the SDGs is about good jobs for everybody. All right, everybody gets good jobs, and the recognition now that, well, maybe there's not going to be any jobs. So that the vision of how the world works that the SDGs were trying to get to may no longer be applicable, or will have to be modified. And so this is one of the thoughts that are have to be incorporated into discussion of when we talk about, hey, yeah, we want to accelerate the SDGs, achievement of the SDGs. And we're coming up, as Joan pointed out, we're coming up to say now how. Yeah, we've all agreed for a long time we need those goals achieved, but it's a question of how. And the how is driven by how you expect the world to work. We're creating a vision. The SDGs is saying, okay, in 2030, the world's going to be like this. Everybody's going to have a good job everywhere, and everybody's going to have a good income, and therefore they're going to be able to do the right things and so forth. And that so if we don't have that vision of how we expect the world to be working, this makes it very difficult for us to define how, because the how is taking us someplace. And that someplace that it's taking us has to be real. And so I just want to bring that up as a caution. The other caution is that came out was right now, for example, Pakistan is saying they want to extend the SDGs to 2047 because that's their 100th anniversary. The African Union, I think, has extended the goals to 2063, if I'm not mistaken. They've set the goals, but it's sort of like here, if you're in a sinking ship and the ship, at the current rate is expected to sink in 5 years, and you sort of say, well, at the rate we're bailing, we're not going to succeed in saving the ship in 5 years. So let's just take 10 years to do it. Well, guess what? The ship's still going to
Still
sink in
gonna
five
still,
years,
yeah,
right? So
exactly.
you can't just go and set whatever times and goals you want without taking it into consideration what's happening and what's causing things to happen. So those were two big things that came out on the discussion yesterday. Was it's we can't arbitrarily just extend dates and do things because there's things happening with the climate, with artificial intelligence and so forth. They're happening, and they're going to change our world. And we have to, like the saying here for Wayne Gretzky, there, don't go to where the puck is now, go to where it's going to be.
Yeah,
And
don't mention him. He's been talking to Trump about us being the governor of
okay,
please.
so we'll just say some
He's
soccer
going to where the
players
puck
said that.
is going, though. That's what he's
Well,
doing.
I know, but
yeah. So
Canadians are not into
and,
him as right now.
and he wants to be the first governor of Canada, the state
Yeah.
of Canada.
Boo.
So, at any rate, here the bottom line for us is we go and we want to come up with a plan, but part of our plan has to be we're trying to get us to a certain point at some point in the future. We've got to explain why that future that we're targeting to get to is valid. That's all I'm trying to bring out on that.
So
Great.
again,
Go
so if
ahead.
you have something, Joan, but what I wanted to point out again is and Joan or Lisa Anise has dropped off, but we in the conversations with the Friends of the African Union, in particular, again, Herschel Daniels Jr., what they have been proposing, again, working with the Trump administration, crazy enough, is to implement a solution, a plan for the modification of the Sustainable Development Goals. And their solution is called the Mending Goals. And the Mending Goals, which were created by an organization in the US, I forget the name right now, are a set of goals that are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is actually what they put forward at the Summit of the Future through their initiatives with the Human Rights Council. So the Mending Goals are a modification of the Sustainable Development Goals. He calls it a superset. And it's basically aligning the SDGs with Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Wow.
which is a way to address the most pressing issues first: the food, the water, the energy, the things, the life things that are essential before we tackle sort of the other bigger things, right? In terms of human development. And I think this addresses what Lysinka has always been stressing around the SIFA plan, is the human development side is very important for long-term sustainability. But if we don't address the basics, we can't address and this is basically what Maslow said, if we don't address the basics, we'll never get to those higher order human needs. But those higher order human needs will come if we can address those lower needs and everybody feels safe, secure, and prosperous enough that they can advance those other aspects of their personal development. And that is actually what Lisa Anise was talking about earlier, was around addressing the fundamental idea of a human ambition being driven by this constant wanting to, rather than working together to achieve the goals, fighting each other essentially to try to get all they can for themselves, rather than understanding that we can actually achieve more if we work together in collaborative ecosystems of development. So we can actually get further by collaborating, by
So this is
by
the
creating
how, and
these partnerships, right?
Lloyd, this is the how, and we can look at different models, but that's great. I like
But I
that
wanted to mention
philosophy. Yeah,
these what are called the mending goals.
yeah.
And so
Mending or modification goals.
they're called the mending goals. That's actually
Mending.
the name.
Yeah.
Okay.
MENDING.
I'm glad we recorded this because this is really a good explanation, I find here, of how to prioritize different
Yeah.
aspects of whatever we're
Yeah.
doing.
Mhm.
Dulce
Dulce,
and
you,
Kaden.
yeah. Dulce,
No, perhaps they can't hear me.
Dulce?
Okay, what I want to add is that SDGs is for the world.
Yeah.
The particularity the particularity in Africa is that we have many challenges. We have many challenges in Africa, like lack of electricity, lack of
Just one
internet.
second, Dulce. Lisinka, you're on mute. We can hear you.
Thank you very much. I haven't got the parcel yet. I have arranged tomorrow.
Lisinka, can you put yourself on mute?
Okay, did you check the tracking? That might give you a better idea of the time frame.
Let me just get
Bill, do you have can you just mute Lisinka?
Yeah. Oh, she
Okay.
just did. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Dulce. We couldn't hardly hear you. I couldn't, because I heard both.
I was saying that the SDG is for the world.
Yep.
Particularly in Africa, we have many challenges like internet, lack of internet, lack of electricity. For example, for a lack of digital infrastructure and lack of digital literacy. We have many challenges like lack of a smartphone, many things. But what we are thinking about the SIFA plan project pilot is that how we can put mechanism in place to well coordinate the process, all the process. So if we are talking of SDGs, someone who is in the far village will benefit of it. So how we can do the project and this youth, for example, in far away village can benefit of this. This is the mechanism we think about to put in place a multilateral mechanism by municipality, for example, by municipality. So they can they can put in place a data revolution to see who is poor, who is not poor. So toward this, we can applicate our SIFA plan to reduce for those who are poorest and reduce inequality between rich and poor. We can also attack environmental resiliency toward this because youth are now empowered, so they can contribute to the to the environmental resiliency, and the economy empowerment can help them develop themselves. This is the process, the simple process. It is not complicated. Now we can reach our objective toward technology. This technology is AI and blockchain. So this AI needs education. If the population don't know what is AI, they can benefit for it. So the education is crucial. I think that you understand well what
So
I'm
are you
saying.
saying that the problem we're trying to solve is education?
Yeah.
Or is it reducing poverty? I mean, they're interrelated, of course, but this
Education.
question is still on the
Without education,
oh,
Okay, I think here there's two things we have to realize. One of the issues, obviously, for the developing countries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, is that villages many times they don't even have electricity. They don't have electricity. They don't have internet, and so forth. But we have to realize rural communities in the United States and in Europe. I know
and
people
Canada.
in
Yeah,
Canada don't have these
yeah,
facilities as well. And
that's
the
right.
problem is for Africa that you've got such a high percentage of your population, and in South Asia as well, such a high percentage of the population is living in rural communities. And
Yeah.
so this is, you know, I just was having a big discussion with the AI this morning, who said, you know, part of the reason we're having so much trouble is we've been following this false policy of trying to improve the infrastructure and situation of rural communities when we should be trying to remove the people from the rural communities and move them into urban settings,
Right.
because it's unfair to society in the areas that are less expensive per capita to provide infrastructure and services. It's unfair to cause them to pay more to subsidize the people living in rural communities. And so this is that's a big part, I think, of the challenge. Then the second thing is when it comes to education, we have to be very careful what many developing countries have invested heavily in education, and but at the upper levels. So you see the percentage of university graduates has gone up by as much as 50% in
Mhm.
some developing countries. And what does that mean? It means developing countries have the highest unemployment rate for highly educated people, because the society, the economy of the society did not increase. In other words, the amount of funds that the society has to pay for the service of the well-educated did not increase. So now we increased the number of people who can provide those advanced services, but we didn't increase the amount of demand in terms of money available to pay for those. So what happens? Those people conclude, hey, I've got to migrate to a market that's able to afford my services. And so we get the brain drain. So
Yeah,
when we look at education here, I agree 100%. The key is education, but it's definitely not at the university level or maybe even
right.
upper secondary level. Where we need it is at the primary levels, because that's where people get the opportunity to move on to further education. And I agree that we have to be educating people in terms of what is the key to the opportunities. When we talk about things like AI, there's no sense to go into a rural community and say, okay, you know what, we're gonna have everybody here educated to be a surgeon if there's no medical facilities in the vicinity there. So we've got to take a look and say, okay, yes, AI is going to be important, but you only need to know how you can leverage AI. You don't need to, you know, I keep hearing in these conferences about of AI fans, everybody needs to learn machine learning. Everybody needs to learn how to build all the internals of these large language models. There's going to be maybe a thousandth of a percent of 1% of the world population that's going to do those things.
Hmm.
It's as if we said let's go and train everybody to be one of the top 10 best basketball players in the world.
Yeah.
There's only 10 slots, right? So we need to educate people for to how to be successful in the world that is. And I agree, in Africa, and all developing countries, the opportunities are huge. But also in countries like the United States, the studies that came out here a year ago said 40% of 10-year-olds in the United States, fourth graders, could barely read. Okay. And now they came out here just last week with this year's report, and they said it got worse compared to last year. Okay. So that's here. So, we've got this problem here. If we get everybody up so that they understand the basics, then and give them the foundation. I agree 100% that should be a top priority. But that is not something, when we talk about the economic plan, and we talk about reducing the economic inequalities, which enable people to address more of that Maslow's bottom level of security.
If that's the process we're going to take. We haven't heard from Augustine, and
Yes.
I do think it's very
Your hands
important
up.
to hear from her.
Yes, please.
Augustine, the question on the table is, Augustine, thank you. The
Yes.
question is, what is the problem we're trying to solve?
Okay, thank you, Madam.
You're welcome.
Actually, it seems this program or project will be very good for strengthening capacity of our communities in terms of economic and reducing poverty and such things. But also, I would like to agree with Mr. Dose concerns, as he has said about different challenges we are facing in Africa, and I think in the other developing countries. So at this stage, I think it cannot be the bigger challenge, because we are talking about pilot projects. If we are talking about pilot, it means we can see some opportunities which found in our countries, and those opportunities can be used. I know even
We can't hear you, Augustine. Augustine, you blanked out.
In our village, there are some villages, but when you go in the center of those village, you can have some access. So we can start wherever it is possible to conduct our project, and from there, after this pilot project period, we can make assessments on the progress and challenges and how to solve it, to solve them. So, based on my opinion, I think we can solve also such problems by collaborating with our local governments, because if we need to be successful, we need to have collaboration with our governments, including our local government, and such things. If we need to have success, we should do that. Apart of that, it will be very difficult to succeed, because especially in African countries, you cannot conduct any project without collaboration with the government.
That would be up to the local organization.
The
Augustine, that would be up to the local organizations to figure out the process.
Yes.
We are trying to identify what issue we're dealing with. So the process we're not going to dictate, because that's up to, if we're going to be working collaboratively with local organizations, they will have to come up with their process. So And we haven't chosen any of the places or anything like that. This is just a question to identify so we're all on the same road to get to the same
Okay.
destination. And that's the problem I'm
Okay.
having is that we're always discussing these abstract things, and I wanted to get us on this specific highway to get to the country or the place. Because I just it's just how I deal. So I'm sorry if I seem, I just don't want to get into abstract issues. We all know the issues. We all know the inequalities. This is the choir. We don't have to sing to the choir. What we need to do is now, what can we do about it? And how are we going to do it? So that's what we're here for, period. So I'm going to be very strict that we focus on that and so we can get something done. Okay, so Lloyd, I'm going to put you on the spot if you don't mind, only because I know you better than for 10 years. Can you kind of give us an idea what you wrap up, synchronize the ideas that you've just heard from your perspective for us
Um,
of what the themes you see that's sort of coming through? And this is not the only meeting we're going to ask this question. We're going to agree on the purpose so there's no, right? Because half of the people are not here.
yeah, I'm not sure if I want to answer that right now.
Okay.
What I would like to do is, as I had mentioned at the beginning, is get a copy of this video
Mhm.
um,
Okay,
and
fair
analyze
enough.
it
Okay,
using
fair
those
enough.
AI tools, and then I
Yeah,
can come up with a
perfect,
summary
perfect.
document that I can share with everybody,
Yeah,
not
perfect.
just the people on this call, but everybody that wasn't able to
Yes,
attend the call, so that
yes.
we can sort of take all these ideas from all the people that participated and voiced their opinions and put it
That's
together
a
in
better
in a
approach.
summary.
Thank you. I think that will be good. You and Bill could probably work together on this. Is that all
Yes, I'm
right?
going to
Yeah,
send
yeah,
Yeah.
Lloyd. I'm going
yeah.
to upload this as soon as I get back from my appointments this afternoon. I'll upload this and send Lloyd the link.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, so we need some help with the committee. I think we should have this meeting again next week, and I'm going to send out something. Bill, you and I can work on this to send out that question. What is the purpose of this? What goal is it that we're trying to do? And let the other people who were unable to come to this, and maybe we'll wait until the summary is done. When do you think you can get the summary done, Lloyd?
It might be a little bit later this week because the rest of my day will be because we have
How
this
about
big event at
Wednesday? How about
2 o'clock.
Wednesday?
But here's the
Uh,
thing, Lloyd. If you're looking to use Notebook LM, the problem is that when I upload this the video, it takes about 2 days before Notebook LM can extract the
Uh,
transcript.
no,
So
no, I'll be using another tool.
okay.
I
Well,
have a
I'll get
number of
this.
tools I've been testing out, and
Yeah,
if I get even just the raw video, I can
yeah.
upload it to another tool that can actually
I
extract.
could maybe send that to you using that web transfer tool there because it's going to be too big, too
Yeah,
large to send through any of the normal.
I mean, YouTube would
okay.
be the ideal thing, and so maybe I won't be able to process it until I don't know Wednesday or
Well, let me
Thursday.
see. There's a thing called WeTransfer, I think it's called, and
Yeah.
that allows very large files to be transferred. So we'll try both ways.
Okay, so two things, guys. We need to keep the raw video for anybody that questions anything. So where is that going to be stored so that we can refer to it if there's a question
Yep.
that somebody's discounted? Because later that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Somebody says, "Oh, I didn't say that. Oh, I didn't." Well, here is where we
What
worked from.
once I upload it, I'll share the link, and then anybody can view the video.
It'll be
Okay,
on
and
YouTube.
yeah, okay, great. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing is a summary from to be sent to everyone, and then the questionnaire with some of the suggestions that you had said earlier, Bill, about how you identified uh, um, what we were supposed to do. Your spiel there. The other thing is that the questions of the mission and visions were asked on WhatsApp. And I think in that document, we should ask it in the Google Doc so we can synthesize it as well and get people to agree because varying degrees of the vision. So, but they are, most everything seems to be pointing to the reduction of poverty and our economic prosperity, right? That's sort of, and we also want to save the world.
and
So
destruction of the
the
planet.
three, yeah. So that's what I said. Somehow we'll take that and then agree to a path forward. So this is how I usually do things, is make sure that everybody's on the same page. And so you don't have discrepancy later, because what tends to happen is if you're leading a pilot project, somebody will go to the president or the chair and say, well, they're doing this and they're doing that, and I really want to do this. And that is so almost unethical, because they're on the committee, they don't voice it, but they go behind your back and talk. I don't want to deal with those people, okay? Because if they're not talking up and saying this is and agreeing or disagreeing in the meetings, it's backstabbing. And I'm bad about dealing with people like that.
Joan, if I
So
can
it
sort of
happens a
summarize,
lot.
if I can sort of summarize the point here, we've been talking about what's the purpose, but one thing we have to make clear, we've been talking about what the purpose of the ultimate project is more so
Yes.
than the purpose of the pilot as such.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
we need to deal with both. Okay.
Yes, we do.
So
Yes.
I think it's very good that we're dealing with this, and Lloyd's going to help us consolidate that and get that down so we can put that out, because once everybody sort of said, hey, this is what the purpose of the primary project is
Yeah.
here, then we can go and address in a similar fashion, okay, what is the purpose of the project, what's the project supposed
Excellent.
to
Yeah,
accomplish,
I
of the
agree. I
pilot,
agree.
and
Yes.
related to that, to say how does the pilot contribute to
The primary.
achieving the project.
Thank
So
you. That's what I was trying to get to.
so
That's what I,
those things, I think here, if we can say for next week,
yeah.
the goal should be to try to get through in a similar fashion, to just say, okay, we've done the due diligence on the overall purpose of the project, the initiative, and now the goal for next week is to do the same for the pilot, both
Yes.
in what the pilot's supposed to accomplish and how it should contribute to the achievement
The pri
of the ultimate goal.
That's what a pilot project is. It should be
Yeah, yeah.
relating to.
But we need to
Uh,
document it
yeah.
so that we
Yes.
don't then we don't have to discuss it anymore. Once we
Yes.
agree,
Perfect.
then we
Perfect.
can build on that rather than
Yes.
keep that
Oh,
discussion.
now I'm happy. I was just getting so frustrated.
So, and Lisinka, I think here what's important as we put the document up, that Lloyd, of what we've discussed, synthesize that of this meeting, because I know there's some points that you've been stressing. We need to at least have those mentioned in the discussion paper that we'll be putting together. Uh, where does the personal development factor come into this? Lloyd brought up on Maslow's hierarchy, the personal development is sort of towards the top end of the hierarchy. And Lloyd is mentioning here that, hey, maybe what we're doing is we're focusing on the bottom end of the hierarchy, because if the bottom end is not there, you don't have a really good foundation to address the higher levels of the hierarchy. So that's for this week, and for between now and next week. The main thing here is to get that document and have a very succinct, clear, hey, this is what came out of the meeting as the purpose of the overall initiative, the goals, and clearly state for the next meeting that the goal is to define the purpose of the pilot and how the pilot should contribute to the achievement of the overall objectives. And once we have that, then we're in a position now to define, okay, what are the features, the characteristics of the pilot that fulfill that purpose of the pilot
Exactly.
relative to
Now
its.
we're working within what the one thing I have to add, and I love what you're saying. I mean, 100% agreement. Is that we have to ask the rest of the committee, or rest of the people involved, what are the purpose of this, so that we get the full,
Yes.
because we want agreement on the purpose.
Yes, absolutely.
Otherwise, we're going to be dealing with this again in 3 months.
Yeah. And that's why we're going to put it on paper and invite
Yes.
Oh, and there's
people
Dr. Obi.
to put
Mr. Amos.
Yes.
Finally.
In the West Indies, we always say you join on Jamaican time. Are you
Or Mexican time if we're
Oh,
talking
Mexican.
Yes, Amos, while I was on the emergency call, and it said I'm trying to reach and get in, but I couldn't interrupt the call I was on, Amos. So I was going to interrupt the conversation here, but I couldn't because it was so vivid and to the point. I couldn't get a word in edgewise. So
Yeah, so I'll do a quick summary. You missed a lot. No, I'm just kidding. We're having a conversation like this is day one. We're treating this as day one, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So this is day one. We don't know where it's going to go. We're not engineering the road or building it. We're asking what materials we need. So that's the way forward. So the question was, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And so what we're going to be doing, so you can answer that question either now, or you could also answer it when we send out the document. So everyone can answer. Some people answer here, they may change it, but we're going to be documenting what people say. And then we're going to, maybe Bill, you can just say what you just said because you said it good.
Yeah. Yes. In this round here, what we've been discussing and trying to make sure everybody's on the same page as to what the overall purpose of the master plan is, not the pilot per se, but the overall systemic goal that we're seeking to achieve. And then we will put something in writing. Lloyd is going to use some tools to synthesize the discussions of today. We'll publish those, invite people to comment on them. But the main thing is that we'll be then switching next week to saying, okay, we now agreed where the big journey we want to get to with the big journey, but what's the purpose of the pilot? Why are we doing the pilot? What's it intended to accomplish? And how does that pilot contribute to the achievement of the overall objective? So that will be next week, and then following that, we'll focus on what are the features that would need to be included in the pilot that would fulfill the pilot's purpose relative to the overall. So that's sort of the sequence, and what came out of today's meeting was when we look at the overall objectives. I think the most consensus was reduce inequality, which would reduce in terms poverty, hunger, and so forth, and also to reduce the destruction that we're doing to our environment and planet. That those two pieces, but also then there was some very specifics on debt reduction and some infrastructure inequality factors that we particularly see in developing countries. And please, anybody want to jump in and help me with, I didn't get everything written down. There was a couple of other comments.
Yeah, but those comments will capture in the summary. But so that's sort of the conversations that we've been having today, Mr. Amos. Do you prefer to be called Mr. Amos or Dr. Amos?
Amos.
Or just Obi.
You tell us what you want. I would tell you, lots of people call me by a different name than Joan, but I prefer Joan. So
I think the B word has been brought up before.
So anyway, any comments? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay. Oh, really? I think from the summary given so far, we are on course, because I know what we are looking for is inclusiveness.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
How to, inclusiveness, how to alleviate poverty through economic growth that is sustainable for humanity and planet Earth, in line with the SDG.
Right.
I think that is the right drive, the right mind.
Yeah,
that we can
perfect.
Impact, yes. How to drive the SDG and make impact for humanity within this short span that is remaining.
Yeah.
I think that is a good conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the first step is establishing what the purpose is and define the goal, and then we can come up with a plan on how we're going to get there and by what time. Does that sound like a fair?
Yeah,
I'm so
of
happy
course.
because I was like, how can we do this pilot project not knowing the overall goal? Like, how does that make any sense? So,
Okay, okay.
all
Good.
right.
Okay,
Well, this is perfect.
yes, we
Yeah.
are
Sounds
a little
funny.
over an hour and a half.
Yep. No, we're good. We're good. We're good.
Okay, anybody want to make any final comments here related to this week before we end this session so that I can start the conversion process so I can get this uploaded to
Oh, Dose has his hand up, Bill.
yes,
Sorry.
Dose.
Oh, oh no, I want to ask before Mohammed, where is it?
Where is what?
Mohammed. Mohammed did
Mohammed, for Egypt.
yes, he I saw sent me a message saying that he was going to try to be here, but he did not make it today.
Okay.
All right, so we didn't, thank you, Dose. We didn't say how we're going to get the other people to answer the purpose. So is that by document or is that by next week?
I think we need to move to document. We need to be able to do asynchronous
Okay,
because there's too many times people can't make the synchronous meetings.
perfect. So who's going to do that document?
Lloyd, I think, is
Uh,
we can work together on it.
I don't know how much time I have for this. I mean, this is additional to everything I need to be doing today and for the
Okay,
next couple days.
so focus on the summary and on the recording. Bill, I can do the document because I have the notes. I can
Okay.
I can start. We can always add to it, but we can at least start and give people the opportunity so that we're very open and have people on the same page. It's very important that we establish that we all agree on the purpose together.
Yeah.
So it's a very strong point for me anyway. And then we can do a plan after that. Once we have our governing rules, our consensus, am I correct? Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
Okay.
think
Do we need
of
to
course.
bring up any of those? I guess I should ask Lasinka, what is it consensus that the common cluster uses?
I think that that's really the
Okay, so we'll use consensus and make sure that everybody has equal opportunity to participate, so that later we can say, well, we did give the time, we're moving forward.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, put deadlines.
yeah. Oh,
Yes.
you know me, Lloyd, you work with me for years.
Yeah,
Good. Good. I think
that's what I'm finding too. I mean, I'm querying our network with polls now to ask people, okay, I actually again I'm using AI and I'm saying, give me a list of different options. And then I put that list out and I say, which options do you like? And I put it out to the entire network of people and I say, you have 2 hours. Give
Yeah,
me feedback.
yeah. Well, I've
And
always been like that. You know, I'm
then I just
bossy,
say, that's
so
it. No more, no more. I'm doing the
yeah.
tally now.
Well, people like to talk about abstract conceptual ideas, but they never talk about how are they going to do it.
well, go ahead, Amos.
Yeah, for a while ago, I finished a meeting with the UN Sustainable Development Network, Solution Network, and they have come out with a system which I will want you to be part of it. It's called a sustain chain. They are using
Sustain chain,
AI to connect
chain.
sustain chain, yes,
Okay.
sustain and chain in one word.
Mm-hmm.
They are using AI to connect every member of the network, of the Sustainable Development Solution Network, into opportunities like funding, like networking, partnership, using the tool of AI. In fact, it was launched, formally launched today. We can take such an example and really scale it up on this SIFA plan. That is wonderful. Probably check it up.
you will see the practicality and the benefit of such a technology, what technology is doing in terms of a project like this. Please, let me just add
Well,
that.
that's great. Is there a link or anything that we can go to?
Yeah, just say a sustained
Sustain
change.
change. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sustained change.
Yeah. Okay.
Pain.
Yeah.
I like that. That sounds very good. All right. I
Okay,
think we're good then.
good. Then I will close this meeting and say
Yep.
thank you to everyone. And I think here as we start to build this up and have documents supporting each level that people can refer back to and see how did we get to wherever we're at.
Yep.
That makes it a lot easier for people to understand what the next steps are and join on board. So thank you
Yeah.
again, everyone.
Okay.
Well,
Bill, can you send the recording also to Zainab?
yes, well, once we get it on, once I get it on YouTube, I'm going to send it to everybody that's affiliated with SIFA in any way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because she can put it in we have a sort of a cubby hole where all of these videos are kept.
Great. Okay. No, we can do that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Amos, one of these days you and I have to talk.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, so but let's focus on this for the next week or so and get this stuff done.
Great.
Okay?
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Talk to you
you.
soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.